Alright, this one's going to be for those who are looking for a new strategy experience on the Nintendo Switch 1 or 2 and maybe want something a little bit different. And right off the bat, I want to say that it supports touchscreen in handheld mode, which is going to be very important. From the visual, you may think, oh, that might not be for me, but Railroute has had me completely hooked. After the publisher asked if we would take a look at it and obviously give away a couple of copies. There's a surprising amount of depth below its minimalist charm, so this video also acts as a bit of a tutorial or like a getting started guide for the different areas and aspects that you need to consider. So here are 10 different areas about the game. And is it on track for your backlog? Well, my name's Mark Walker, welcome back to Switch Up. Now let's find out. Railroute lets you know very quickly that its core concepts are based on a real-world job. Don't let that scare you though, because it does a very good job of giving you a tutorial for every aspect. At its heart, Railroute is about building custom rail networks, managing that train traffic, and you'll start out with just a couple of stations at your disposal. With trains arriving onto the map, it gives you an indicator showing you exactly how long you've got before they show up, and you've got to manually route them through the network that you've built. So how that works is you have to place down things like signals, alternate routes, and make sure that trains reach their destinations on time. Now outside of that, you've also got optional contracts that you can take on that will give you a nice chunky reward if you can actually meet the criteria. And the game's split into 4 main modes. You've got story mode, which is like a structured tutorial. It gives you new mechanics, it teaches you every aspect, and it does it in a way that's drip fed over time so that you don't feel overwhelmed, and it'll also confirm if you've actually managed to do the thing it's asking you. It's actually a really solid tutorial, and you will need it if you're to utilize and unlock the more advanced aspects, of which there are many. And we will go into some of those because I think it might be the thing that tips a few old school strategy players into the hang on, that might have to go into my backlog category. Outside of story mode, there's timetable mode where you're trying to find the most efficient solutions, endless mode, which is a sandbox that you can just enjoy at your own pace, and rush hour mode, where the pressure is cranked right up. When you enter the building mode, track building's pretty intuitive. You basically draw tracks between 2 points and connect your stations that way. The key here though are those signals. You use those directional signals and chain signals to control the flow of multiple trains. Initially you'll be doing all of this manually until the game basically says, why are you doing it manually? There are automatic signals you can use, and you'll be unlocking those through an almost RPG-like upgrade tree, which I'll talk about next. But if you don't set up your signals properly, your trains will be crashing into each other. It'll be a complete disaster and you'll fail the mission. Thankfully, you can save the game whenever you want, but there is a eureka moment that happens about 20 minutes in where you realize the flexibility of that track design element, because initially I was just failing the missions over and over again thinking this isn't actually possible, but it was me foregoing building extra routes so that trains could always be moving rather than having to wait for one to arrive at the station. Now obviously not all trains are equal. You'll unlock different types over the course of the game. They have different speeds, acceleration, and obviously costs, and later in the title you can actually assign different upgrades. You can improve their ability to brake, create auto departure schedules, and then that takes us on to contracts and economy. I mentioned the contracts before. Your cash comes from completing them and getting those passengers from A to B. Each successful run earns you cash, and it's that cash that you'll use to upgrade the tracks, get those automation tools, and also unlock new stations or platforms within an existing one to give you more versatility of how to design and lay out your network. Next up, we've got automation. Now I did say at first I was manually controlling every single signal, but automation really makes things easier, like automatic network routing, and as the maps get bigger that becomes way more important. Without it, you could just get a bit overwhelmed. The maps cover a variety of different regions, including Chicago, Berlin, and Prague, and I believe there are a couple of fictional ones as well, but they have, I think, tried to actually model the station layouts based on actual geography. Each map, as you'd expect from a strategy game, has its own challenges, and there are limitations on where you can build, or areas of particularly high traffic that have been placed there for you to try and work out how best to manage them. Number 8 is the tech tree and progression. The game's tech tree is obviously where you unlock the automation, the new train types, all of that good stuff. that makes it feel a little bit more like an RPG. To do so, you'll need to spend research points, which you earn through the contracts, as well as other gameplay milestones. And that's where the addictiveness really comes in. There is something so satisfying about meeting those contracts because they're not easy, or at least at face value they're not until you've really got to grips with the building mechanics. Number 9 is the industry chains and freight. Now later maps will introduce industry or industrial logistics, and you'll be trying to balance that with your passenger industry as well, making sure that one doesn't interfere with the other or cause delays. It gets seriously complex, but it always feels manageable, and I love the fact that you could just reload saves if you felt like, actually, do you know what, I didn't like the way that I did that. Now on the Nintendo Switch, the performance is decent, as you would expect from something that looks like this. That minimalist UI, the way things move around, it all makes sense. I would like to see them add in mouse mode for Switch 2, but obviously none of these developers had access to a dev kit, so that might take a couple of weeks. Still, the streamlined console interface makes sense, it's quick to get around, and the fact that it supports touchscreen controls kind of mitigates any other complaints you may have when it comes to those controls. It's certainly enjoyable. So then I'll just finish with a few tips if you do think about picking it up. Keep your early track designs as simplistic as possible. It can be really tempting to just go a bit wild. Make the routes as short and as direct as possible. Get that automation as early as possible as well, and it is much better to keep things manageable rather than just going absolutely ham and ending up in a nightmare situation with multiple crashed trains and failed runs. I'm not saying I did that, but I definitely did that. When it comes to price, Railroute retails at £16.49 or your regional equivalent. However, there is a 20% launch discount, taking it down to £13.19 until July the 16th. But there's also an owner's discount, which will take it down by 30% for those who own select Untold Tales titles. The download size is just 408 megs, and you are getting hundreds of hours of gameplay, and very addictive gameplay at that. So a big thank you to the publisher and the very small indie team that created this one. If you'd like to win a copy, if it's something that sounds up your alley or down your track, let me know. A thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!